some of the gigs that stick in the mind are the gigs where you go from being the band that like your friends grow tired of coming to see you because they're your friends and stop coming, and then you're going, well, who's gonna come?
Yeah.
And then if you're lucky and you work hard, then other people start showing up, and there are shows that definitely stick in my mind where that process reached a point where you were starting to fill venues, and all the people were there because they wanted to, not because they felt obliged to be there, because they loved you as a person, and that was incredibly exciting. And looking around at each other and going, oh my goodness, this is more than just us playing the songs we've been playing together in a room to 4 people. This is so there are a few shows like that that I'm very the memories stick in your mind. The second question was, I've forgotten.
Best, like, what do you like about playing Bristol or City or whatever?
Bristol is full of interesting people, and I don't know why, but we started to just, the shows here started to get very, very good, and selling out places, and the people that came to the shows carrying out the band and singing the songs, and so it's easy to have a good time when the people in the crowd are having a good time, and so the reason we keep coming back is because we have fun in here, and it's a beautiful city anyway, and
Bristol's lovely,
lots of interesting stuff going on, and I guess that means that there are enough people that a small percentage of those people are the types of people that would be interested in our band. So it's we come back because people here are generous to us, I guess. We try to be generous to them.
Yeah, well, it's a lovely answer. It's festival season soon. Are you playing more lineups that you're not allowed to tell us about yet, or like what's your favourite circuit, especially, or stuff like that?
We are not, I think, playing any festivals this summer. Mostly because we haven't put a record out in a while, and those invitations tend to come when you've got something to promote, because that's kind of how festival booking tends to work. And we're lazy and we haven't got a new record yet, so we need to make a new record, and then we'll hopefully get asked to come back. We've never really played the big festivals, but we've been around for long enough that we've seen some of the current kind of alternative festivals grow, and we've kind of grown with them. So things like 2000 Trees, Why Not, Truck, like all of those are festivals I love. I like that size where it's small enough to still feel kind of special and like a bit of an exclusive club, and so those are always a pleasure to play. And 2000 Trees, the guys that run that,
love 2000 Trees.
I remember we showed up to play that a couple of years ago, and we have been playing it for years, since it was maybe 2 stages or something, and we got there and we kind of went, oh, which tent are we in? And they went, oh, you're just over there. And we were like, okay, and we drove around, and all the tents were running out, and then we were like, oh, we must have come too far, because it's just the main stage. And they went, it's Tellison, no, you're on there, you're playing on the main stage. And we just hadn't occurred to us that we'd get to do that, because it's not really not a band that gets to do those sorts of things. So
you won't be making an appearance at Trees this year?
Well, I mean, unless my phone starts ringing, I'm afraid not.
Oh, that's disappointing.
Sorry. Yeah.
So you're a very, very like literary influenced band.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favourite book or author, and why do you take influence from this more than any other band takes literary influences?
Okay. I'm going to give such a white male answer here. I apologise for myself.
It's okay.
I'm aware that I'm a cliche, but I love Moby Dick by Herman Melville. I like a lot of Herman Melville's writings. But I also like having a favourite film or something. I just like... often the thing I'm reading now is the thing I'm most excited about, because it's the thing I can remember. I guess my family likes reading, and so I was always surrounded by books and stuff as a kid, and was encouraged to read early, which I'm very grateful to my parents for. And I guess I take influence from it because it's like reading a book is such an easy way to suddenly have like the contents of someone else's mind dumped into your mind, and other people have interesting thoughts, and if they've thought something was interesting enough to put in a book, it's usually is interesting. Or often is. I guess there's lots of bad books too, but it's then easy to get inspired by stuff like that. If someone is writing about a feeling or something, and you think, oh, this book was written 150 years ago, and this person is feeling the same way as I feel now, that's an amazing kind of moment of contact, kind of across time with another human being, and that's the kind of stuff that gets your heart pumping, gets you feeling stuff, and I guess that's often when I get excited and want to write songs or think, oh, what do I think about this? How would I phrase this? Or shall I just steal this sentence from a classic book or play and put it in my song?
Yeah. That's really interesting though, because it's like something that you don't see a lot of bands doing. You see them like with a lot of musical influences, but not like literary ones.
I guess so. I suppose it's like the Venn diagram of people that like reading books, and then people that want to be in bands maybe is smaller. I don't know. Or maybe it just doesn't occur to people. Or I was always never very worried about trying to be like super original. And just was quite happy to kind of go, this is from this book, and I think this book is great, and kind of wear that on your sleeve, which I think maybe some people find a bit gauche, but I'm okay with it.
I think it's cool.
And there are, I think, some great bands that do reference all sorts of things, and including literature. I think John K. Sampson from the Weakerthans. It's a Canadian band, and he's one of my favourite singer-songwriters, and I think he's like an English professor, but he references amazing bits and pieces. And to give the final point in this long answer, I'm sorry. I love lyrics, first off, and I love lyrics that invite further investigation. So it like make reference to something you've not heard of, or use a word you've not heard of, or use a phrase you're like, well, what does that mean? Or well, that's interesting. What's he doing there? And invites you to go away and Google it, or look it up in a dictionary, or do some detective work, essentially. And then that opens up a little window to something, another thing, and it's intertextuality, to use a long academic word, but that is life for me. Like that's, people, we're just animals that show up and live for a small period of time, but people are dumping these things that they thought about or cared about and leaving them behind, and being able to like go over there and have a small window into what Herman Melville was thinking about, or Joseph Conrad, or anyone, two white male authors again. Sorry.
Classics always like
always
white and male anyway. So
For now.
I was wondering. Feel free to say no if this isn't a literary reference, but if it is, say yes, and I want to know more. So I went to Paris recently, and I was in the cemetery, and I was wondering if My Wife's Grave is in Paris was referencing like a literary work where I could find them in the cemetery in Paris.
Great question.
As I googled it, and I was like, I can't find anything, but I want to see this grave that Tellison referenced.
It is a reference.
Is it?
Yeah. Good spot. Full box. You're the first person ever to ask that question or even think about that, I'm sure. It is a reference to a play called Ivanov, and it's, I think, a translation by Tom Stoppard. And my sister is a big literary person as well, and she loves Tom Stoppard, and she took me to see this play in like 2009 or something, and it was a line spoken by this count. It's I think it's sort of a Russian play, so there's a lot of Russian guys hanging out being sad, and did I just get photobombed?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. There's this count basically who can't get back to Paris because he's run out of money, and he's living on this grand estate, kind of on someone else's dime in this play, and he's really sad and just kind of moping around, but he's like kind of a philosopher, and kind of he's old-fashioned, and Russia has changed around him, and he's kind of been left behind, and he very mournfully at one point says to no one in particular, because no one takes him seriously because he's just this old geezer, he says, "Oh, my wife's grave's in Paris," and it was like the saddest thing in the world, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And I think everyone has those moments when they're watching a film or a play or something, and I looked at my sister, and she was just like, I don't think notice particularly, and then I felt really bad because I got my phone out and write it down. And I think the reason you wouldn't find it when you Google it is because it's a weird translation. It's like a one-off translation, so you'd need to find the script of the play, like this translation. But yeah, that's the story.
Than's for answering that, because I've been
That's
wondering
fine.
that for literally
it's
years
nice
now.
It's nice to know someone is like seeing the signpost.
Yeah. So you've, like, Tellison have been on loads of record labels, like Big Scary Monsters and Banquet and Alcopop. What makes all these labels so unique, and why do you keep hopping around? And, like
I think no one will work with us
like
once they've worked with
Alcopop
us.
more than, well, more than you
More
did
than
the
oh,
others
don't
than
say
you
that.
do right
No, I'll
now,
get in
or
trouble.
phrase the answer how you want
Yeah,
to.
I'll be very careful. Alcopop is an amazing label. For the record, I don't love like the More Than Banquet or VSM or anyone. I think it's just circumstance, really. Maybe perhaps we're really difficult to work with. I don't know. No one's ever said that to my face, but maybe they say that behind my face. Behind my back is the phrase, not behind my face. Jack, who runs Alcopop, I mean, Alcopop didn't exist when Tellison formed. I remember going to their first gig for their first record. In fact, was a band called Encyclopedia, and the singer from Encyclopedia was in Tellison for several years. It's a great record. You should listen to it. It's called Emily.
Okay.
And we went to the launch party, and it was great. We met Jack, and we kind of thought, this guy's very enthusiastic. And then for years, he was trying to get us to put a record out with Alcopop, and we were with Banquet and then BSM and then Name. We just with other people for various reasons. And before the third record, to be honest, if you were lazy as a band like us, the phone stops ringing basically after a few years, and it's quite hard to find someone. This is the honest answer actually to this question is that we've put records out with people that have wanted to put the record out because usually no one else wanted to.
Okay.
There are no bidding wars or anything going on around Tellison, but Jack, thank goodness, remained very passionate about our band. And sometimes you need someone outside the band to be passionate, to remind you that it matters to other people and that it's worth doing. It's easy to get down on yourself. So Jack very kindly and very expertly put the record out, and I would say breathed kind of some new life into our band with a kind of he's very positive and a kind of fresh approach, and what I was talking about earlier with like not putting too much pressure on ourselves and just trying to enjoy this, success that we have, and without trying to compare ourselves to any other bands or anyone else's career.
It's a great record anyway. So
oh, thank you.
Despite that.
Well, it's a record.
So, I've heard that you and other members of the band went to uni and were a student radio station.
Yes.
So, can you give any advice to students in hindsight?
I mean, I probably did everything wrong. So I guess my first advice is don't do what I did, which was spend most of my degree trying to be in a successful rock band, not studying. I suppose, and it's all advice of this kind is just cliche, isn't it? But I think I put a lot of pressure on myself to try to be successful, and without really interrogating what I meant by that, And I am now 31, and even now it just occurs to me occasionally that I think actually, for me, success is not necessarily being super rich. It might be, having a family and living in a place that I find beautiful or something, or there's different ways to quantify success, I suppose. So I would, if pushed, suggest that people don't put themselves under too much pressure, and also try to maybe think about what would make you happy. Actually, that's such a simple question, such a simple thing, very hard to figure out. And when you're at uni, you're very young. You don't have a lot of life experience, and part of, I guess, being in your 20s, I think, is failing at stuff or doing stuff and getting down about it and going, I've made the wrong decision here. I need to turn around and go back and try something else. And I've tried a million different things. And it's okay. It's fine. You still are alive, and your parents mostly still love you, and everything it's okay. So I guess, I don't know. My advice is don't put yourself under too much pressure. Think about what makes you happy and try to find a thing that, accomplishes some of, if not all of that. And if it's some of it, you can also have other things. I have a full-time day job, and then I play in a rock band sometimes. And then I do another 3 or 4 things. And that's great. Life, it's fun to have variety too. Terrible answer. I'm sorry, students of the world.
Don't put pressure
I
on yourself.
apologise.
And the last question, how would you say Tellison on stage is different from Tellison on the record?
We are maybe less serious on stage. I think our records we've been accused of being a bit miserable or taking ourselves a bit seriously, or being, back in the day people would say emo. I don't know what that means now to young people, but a lot of people are surprised that, you know, oh, you guys aren't unhappy, depressed people, or you're just. For me, writing music and writing songs is often a place to put those feelings of doubt or worry or whatever. Also, we're more sweaty on stage. Me particularly, and maybe in the studio, I think I certainly am quite tempted to really get obsessive and be like, oh, that guitar is not perfect, and what if we added a piano doing the exact same thing as the guitar? And the producer's just like tearing his hair out and going, we don't need to do that. And I'm like, I know we don't need to, but can we do it, please? Yeah. I'm not leaving until we do it. And live, I think we spent years, in fact, having an extra member in the band and having all this extra stuff going on and trying to reproduce the records perfectly. And then one day, the fifth member, in fact, he quit to become a baker, a very successful baker now. But we had to play a show as a 4-piece, which we hadn't done for 10 years or something. And we did it, and it was really fun. And after the show, I said, oh, didn't you miss that piano part that came in there? And everyone I asked didn't notice. So live, I suppose I've learned that it's more about connecting with people in the room and not trying to reproduce note for note something that is physically impossible, perhaps. Yeah,
that's a good answer. Well, thank you for doing the interview with me.
No, thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Nice to